In 476 AD, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was overthrown by Odoacer, a Germanic barbarian leader who commanded troops made up of mercenaries and federated peoples within the Roman army itself. That year is symbolically remembered as the end of the Western Roman Empire. But what happened to the Roman soldiers after that? That's exactly what we'll explore in this video. First of all, it's important to understand that by the 5th century, the Roman army was no longer the same powerful force it had once been. The legions once made up of Roman citizens were gradually replaced by troops consisting mainly of mercenaries and allied barbarian peoples, known as the Federati. These groups didn't just fight for Rome. They also had their own leaders, traditions, and customs. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus, who lived during that time, noted that the army had become more foreign than Roman, emphasizing that many soldiers serving in the legions no longer spoke Latin and had little connection to Roman traditions. The constant invasions from the Vandals, Alemanni, Huns, and other tribes forced the empire to accept these changes. The old legionary structure was replaced by more flexible and mobile forces, known as the comitatenses. These troops could move quickly to respond to both internal uprisings and external invasions. However, they never truly matched the strength and discipline of the traditional legions. Along the frontiers, local defense was left to troops called the limitanii, but they often lacked sufficient resources. This made the border regions more vulnerable and heavily dependent on the quick intervention of the comitatenses. As time went on, barbarian leaders began to gain more power within the Roman army. A notable example was Stilicho, a Vandal general who commanded Roman forces for years during the late 4th century. His influence grew so strong that he effectively ruled on behalf of the young emperor Honorius, showing how deeply the Roman military had come under control of non-Roman leaders. When Odoacer finally deposed the last emperor in 476, many Roman soldiers were still active in service. However, the traditional Roman soldiers, the citizen legionaries trained under the old system, soon disappeared as an organized force. Many were discharged or simply abandoned military life as the empire's structure crumbled around them. Without a stable government to sustain them, they had to find new ways to survive. Some of these former soldiers returned to their lands, becoming farmers or craftsmen, trying to rebuild peaceful lives after years of warfare. With the collapse of cities and the growing insecurity across Western Europe, many sought refuge in the countryside, far from the chaos of battle. On the other hand, a large number of former Roman soldiers were absorbed into the armies of barbarian kingdoms that rose from the empire's ruins. They continued fighting, but now under new rulers and banners. For instance, after Gaul fell to Franks in 486, many ex-Roman soldiers joined the service of the new Germanic kings, carrying forward their military experience into a new and changing world. Many of those former Roman soldiers kept their skills and discipline, but now they served barbarian kings, helping to lay the foundations for the future medieval armies. A number of Roman officers, with their deep experience and administrative knowledge, were absorbed into barbarian courts, becoming advisors, commanders, and administrators. This administrative continuity played a crucial role in keeping parts of the old Roman system alive. Even though the Western Empire had fallen politically, these men helped preserve Roman culture, law, and military organization, reshaping them to fit the new world ruled by the Germanic kingdoms. However, not all soldiers found such stability. Some became mercenaries, offering their services to whoever could pay them best, while others were lost in scattered bands, contributing to the chaos and violence that defined much of that era. At the same time, the Catholic Church began recruiting ex-Roman soldiers to protect its lands and properties. Many of these men transitioned from serving the empire to defending their local communities under banner of Christian faith. In the Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantium, traditional Roman soldiers continued to serve for much longer. But in the West, they were gradually replaced by barbarian forces and new military systems that had little in common with the old Roman legions. Still, It's incredible to note that some Roman legions continued to exist and fight for centuries after the fall of the Western Empire. One of the most famous examples is Legio V Macedonica, a unit with a remarkable history. Founded in the 1st century BCE, this legion took part in many decisive battles, from the Roman civil wars to campaigns against barbarian tribes. What's truly striking is that historical records show Legio V Macedonica was still active in the 7th century CE, about 700 years after its creation and long after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Archaeological evidence suggests it was one of the last traditional Roman legions to exist before disappearing during the Arab invasions of the Levant and Egypt. Another strong example comes from the Byzantine Empire, which saw itself as the true continuation of Rome. In the East, legions, though restructured, were maintained for centuries, defending the empire's borders against Persians, Arabs, and other invaders. The great Emperor Justinian I, in the 6th century, heavily reorganized the Eastern Roman army, striving to preserve and revive Roman military traditions. Even though the original Roman identity gradually faded, the discipline and experience of those soldiers became the foundation of medieval warfare. Former Roman soldiers trained the troops of new rulers, teaching them how to maintain battle formations, handle weapons, and organize armies effectively. They also passed down vital siege techniques, fortification designs, and defense strategies that became essential for protecting cities and territories in the Middle Ages. Moreover, Roman codes of conduct and discipline deeply influenced the knightly traditions of medieval Europe. The odes, hierarchies, and codes of honor adopted by knights were direct echoes of ancient Roman military customs. So, what did you think of this story about the fate of the Roman soldiers? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more stories from history.